In the first scene, an armed group arrives in the woods in the middle of the night. They get out of their cars and take a long walk. As the sun rises, they see some gloomy multi-story buildings. In the daylight, we can get a better look at the group. We've already seen one of them before, being tortured in prison. Through his memories, we learn the background of all this. He was taken out of prison on one condition. He and his buddies have to do a specific job. It's about infiltrating a bunker in Soviet territory and listening to a scientist and her guard. Their mission is to pick up a doctor and the results of his work in the bunker. The task doesn't seem impossible, and it's better than being tortured in prison, so our protagonist accepts, and now the whole team is going through the forest towards the bunker. The path through the forest is more complicated than they thought. The group comes across a minefield. In the center of the field, there are motorcycle tracks. The commander decides that everyone will follow those tracks. The scientist suggests finding a way around the field, but they don't agree. There's no time to lose. They follow the motorcycle tracks without any problems, but suddenly they hear the sound of a motorcycle approaching. They all jump off the road and hide behind the trees. Very risky, considering they are in a minefield. The motorcycle approaches and stops. The driver is wearing a mask and is armed. Luckily, he doesn't notice our heroes and eventually leaves. The team continues their journey. Finally, through binoculars, they see their target. The scientist explains that these are old military barracks now used by the Russians to torture innocent people and keep them in cages outdoors. The operation to infiltrate the bunker begins. Under the guise of employees, 2 members of the group head to the militant base. They're about to get into trouble, but you know how it is with Russians. Vodka solves the situation. They manage to gain the trust of those present and infiltrate the computers with surveillance cameras. Now it's the rest of the team's turn. Thanks to the cameras being turned off in time, everyone manages to sneak into the base. Instead of going straight to their destination, they stop when they see a half-naked woman chained up in one of the rooms. While they decide what to do with her, since they can neither take her with them nor let her go, one of the militants bursts into the room. Fortunately, they manage to kill him silently, but the girl also gets shot in the process. The scientist's quick-witted bodyguard arranges everything to make it look like the attacker and the girl killed each other. On the one hand, the problem is solved, but on the other, there would have been no problem if they had focused on their task. Fortunately, in the future, no one was distracted from their goals. Several times, at the risk of being discovered, they descend into the underground tunnels and find a passage to the bunker. However, there are many corpses at the entrance, dead for a long time. But our heroes are not frightened. The 2 members of the group who stayed at the surveillance cameras see that someone is slowly following our heroes. However, they cannot report this by radio, as the signal does not penetrate there. This situation is distressing. It seems that nothing is happening, but you already feel anxiety. The group moves forward, and now we see that someone is following them. We can't see it in detail, but it's clear that it's not a person, and it looks very scary. Suddenly, this creepy stalker attacks one of the members of the group. He opens fire, but the attacker manages to escape by injecting a syringe into his neck. The whole group gathers immediately, and they start looking for the attacker, but they can't find him. The man who was attacked claims that nothing happened to him. "Dude, you even look like the first character to die in horror movies," they tell him. The group decides to move on. One of the guys watching the cameras is still following their movements, ready to spill the beans about the pursuers. Meanwhile, the guy who got injected in the neck starts feeling worse. He complains about being incredibly hot while everyone else is freezing. Suddenly, he sees blisters on his arms. Maybe he's hallucinating, but either way, he's no use to the group anymore. The last guy at the cameras is in trouble. They suspect him of espionage and are giving him the 3rd degree. He's surrounded by armed militants. Things are also getting ugly in the tunnels. Someone turned on the gas, and now they're having trouble breathing. The commander of the group is attacked by a weird creature, a pursuer, but manages to defend himself and avoids being injected with something from a syringe. They're saved by their buddy, who comes from the camera room, who kills the creature, and then another one. The group continues forward, although I would have turned back by now. Prison doesn't seem so bad now compared to those creepy creatures in the dark bunker. They reach the laboratory. One of the group is injured, so the local medical equipment seems like a good find, although I have a bad feeling about it. They put an oxygen mask on the wounded man. and the group continues searching for the doctor they came to rescue. The corridors of the laboratory are endless and very scary. Finally, in one of the rooms they find a doctor. It's a woman, and next to her is another woman crying and pregnant. It seems like she's about to give birth. A kind of argument starts between the doctor and a scientist. It turns out they worked together in the past, but now the scientist has betrayed her former boss. The team leader understands that they haven't been told everything and that he needs to know more if he wants to get his companions out alive and complete the mission. And here I agree with him. We finally need to know what is going on. The doctor reveals that the Soviet Union offered her a job when she graduated from Cambridge. They required a geneticist, and she fit the bill. The USSR had at its disposal an ancient meteorite with DNA from extraterrestrial creatures, and they needed a scientist who could extract this DNA from the meteorite and use it. The doctor accepted since they promised her total freedom of action in her experiments, without moral, ethical, or legal restrictions. Now, in this bunker, she grows aliens. She takes them to an adjoining room that looks like a greenhouse. There's a man inside, initially with his back to them. It would be better if he continued like that, but no. He turns to the newly arrived group, and we see that he has many small eyes instead of 2 human eyes and holes in his neck. A horrifying sight. This is a product of the doctor's work. She called this hybrid of human and alien DNA Gov. Gov is 5 years old, although he looks like at least a teenager. He doesn't speak but understands everything. The team wants to leave. The soldier feels sick. I understand her well. I felt it too when I saw Gov. He gives her back a forgotten backpack, but manages to steal her phone. The pregnant girl we saw in the previous scene is also a 5-year-old hybrid and is about to give birth to a second generation of hybrids. Next, we are shown the life of the hybrids. It is not enviable. From the first day of their birth, they are forced to undergo various tests and are under constant surveillance. We see videos of tests that both hybrids failed to pass. The doctor complains that she got defective samples, but when the camera turns off, we see the amazing abilities of the hybrids, even telekinesis. Apparently, they are not only not stupid, but smart enough to understand that they should not show their unique abilities to the doctor. The pregnant hybrid in the next compartment is suffering. The doctor understands that the girl will die, but she only cares about preserving the offspring. Scientists are very cynical. She plans to perform a cesarean section without anesthesia. The soldier turns out to be more humane than all the scientists. She shoots the poor hybrid in the head, ending her suffering. The hybrid dies. The doctor claims that the fetus is also gone along with the mother. The leader of the group insists that it's time to move, but the doctor wants nothing to do with it. She has spent 17 years in that laboratory and is sure that they are going to liquidate her anyway, so she prefers to die right there. The scientist in the group tells the leader that he has to eliminate the doctor. Their mission is to take samples and research materials, and if she doesn't cooperate, destroy the lab with her inside. That would give them an extra £2 million, but the leader refuses. He doesn't do business that way. The group prepares to leave. The soldier returns with Gov and tells him that his sister has died. He looks at the hand that pulled the trigger and with one blow shatters her spine. He takes a strange device from his belongings and leaves the room. It seems that things are going to get ugly. Meanwhile, there is a rift in the group. The leader still doesn't want to kill the doctor, but his assistant, tempted by the money, decides to take matters into his own hands. He disarms the leader, and they start fighting. While they are fighting over the money, the real problem arrives. Gov appears, and the scientist orders the others not to shoot, that this model is very valuable to her. The hybrid approaches his dead sister. The doctor is convinced that he cannot feel anything. "Woman, you are a bad scientist if in 5 years you haven't seen that these hybrids only hide their abilities," she snaps. The doctor asks Gov to return to his room, but he simply blows her head off with his strange weapon. At least, the problem of the doctor is solved. In the midst of the confusion, the leader recovers his weapon and takes control again. The group finds the soldier, who is still alive but with her arms and legs shattered. The scientist starts to help her. Gov wanders the halls. After his sister died, he no longer has any reason to stay there and seeks to free himself. The group knows they must eliminate him, so the leader goes ahead with several companions to clear the way. Behind, the scientists will try to carry the 2 wounded. At least, that's their plan, although I see it as difficult. The scientist injects the wounded soldier, supposedly with morphine, but it is actually another substance that kills her. While the men advance through the gas-filled corridors, the scientist goes to kill the other wounded man, but he is more cunning and detonates a grenade. There are only 3 survivors. One of them is the scientist's guard, who says they can get out of the tunnels using an elevator. It was an emergency evacuation plan for extreme cases, and now everything is worse than ever, so it's time to use it. While the 3 men ascend the 150 floors in the elevator, the scientist, who survived the explosion, pulls out a gun and heads somewhere. The elevator finally reaches its destination, and something kills the scientist's guard before the door fully opens. Then, a huge and terrible hand slides into the elevator and grabs the deputy leader of the group by the neck. A few rifle shots solve the problem, and the monster trying to get in is shot down. When the door fully opens, it turns out to be the first member of the group, stabbed in the neck. Well, my friend, I was wrong. You weren't the first to die. The remaining 2 finally reach the surface. Gunfire is heard. They run outside and find another member of the group who operates the cameras. He is wearing a suit and badly beaten, but still alive. So there are 3 of them again. However, the number of militants around is rapidly decreasing. They fire machine guns and grenade launchers. Their target is not visible, but you and I can guess who they are shooting at, right? The Chechens explode one after another. Finally, none of them survive, and Gov appears from around the corner, with his next sight set on our trio of survivors. The leader's assistant makes a desperate decision. He approaches Gov, sacrificing himself and putting himself in the line of fire of his fearsome weapon. While Gov is distracted, the leader plans to kill him. The scientist arrives armed with a pistol and tries to shoot the leader, but another survivor takes her down. Gov pulls out a knife and, without further ado, splits the assistant in 2. In the end, only 2 survivors and a hybrid remain. Gov hears the cawing of a crow and leaves. The leader of the group follows him with a gun, determined to finish him off. The hybrid stops and watches a bird in the tree, seemingly more interested in birds than in killing people. Just as the leader is about to reach him, Gov turns around and, in an electronic voice, says, "Come on, shoot me." The man, surprised, does not shoot. He sits down in the snow, pulls a half-eaten sandwich out of his pocket, and eats it. Later, we see him being escorted somewhere, probably back to jail. In the final scene, Gov, fully dressed and wearing glasses, arrives in London, leaving many questions unanswered. Why didn't the group leader kill the hybrid when he had the chance? Didn't he understand that he was releasing a dangerous and armed alien into the world? London will now face a great upheaval. What are these scientists thinking when they delve into such delicate matters? It might just be a movie, but who knows what scientists are doing in secret labs around the world?